Well, hello again. Welcome to another one of my deep dive videos. In this video, we're going to be looking at the door code. Now, why the door code in particular? Well, as it so happens, I created an alpha build of my game and gave it to my kids and basically told them try and break stuff. And one of my kids actually managed to break the door code, or rather showed me that it can be glitched. So if we go in here and hit play, I'll show you what I mean. So if you open the door and then close it like a sane person, that's fine. But if you go crazy and mash the interact button like so, you'll see it's kind of buggy. Yeah, this is clearly not ideal. So I have fixed this code in here's one that I've fixed already, and I'm going to mash the interact key and you'll see no more bugging. So let's start by looking at the existing door code, and then I will show you how that works and how I modified it. Here is the original code. This section here, show and hide interact message, is basically identical to the way that the interact messages are handled in the lights, which I've covered in another video, so we don't have to worry about that now. Then on door open and close, it's pretty basic. We check to see if the door is open. If the door is open, we close it. If the door is closed, we open it. We start by playing a sound. Now this is different depending on whether the door is opening or closing, because if we're opening the door, we play the sound of a door handle, and then we delay slightly, because obviously when you open a door, you turn the handle first and then there's a pause. It's a tiny little delay, but makes a difference. And obviously if we're closing the door, you have the door creak first and then the sound of the door latch. Then these two nodes, the timelines, control the rotation of the door, which is 100 degrees. So it goes from plus 10 degrees to minus 90 degrees. I can't remember why it doesn't go from 0 to 100, but I'm sure there was a reason for that. And yeah, then we use that animation track and make rotator and set the relative rotation. Then if you have coding experience, you'll probably already have spotted a problem with this. We change the door open state, and we set the interact messages, and that's it. The problem is, I was doing all of this off the rotator, which means everything after the set relative rotation is being driven on an update node. So that means it's just running this code over and over, which is why it's so easy to spam it. So the easiest way to fix this is we need to run this code off the finished pin over here. So what we do is we delete this link and set it like that. This way, it'll wait until the door is actually open or closed. Before changing the variable and updating the interact message. I'm going to be a little bit anal here and tidy this up so that it's easier to follow. Now we do the same thing for the other animation, but because there's no sound being played here, because this is the door close, so we need to play the sound of a door closing when it's finished. But on door open, once the door is finished opening, there's no sound that needs to be played. That's why there's this node after the animation and there isn't one on the other one. So, I mean, that's even easier. We just connect this bit of code up here. Get it nice and neat, and there we go. Now, this in and of itself is not enough to fix the problem. What we need is another variable to see whether the door is in motion or not. So, I'll go back to one of the doors where I've already done this and just copy this variable and paste it in here. And then what we want to do is on Interact, the first thing we want to do is to check whether the door is in motion or not. So we'll place a get and we'll place a set. So we're going to check here just with the branch command. And if the door is not in motion, we're going to set it to be in motion. So this is just to ensure that the game knows whether the door is moving or not. And the reason it's here right in the beginning is because if the door is already in motion, this branch statement will stop the code from running, which means you can't spam Interact and have it glitch out like that. And then the last thing we need to do right up at the end here is just reset door in motion to negative, like so. And just run that off both instances of the code. Hit compile and save it. And then once that's compiled, we should no longer be able to spam the door. Let's give it a try, shall we? There we go. If my mic is picking up the sound of me furiously mashing the E key. But yeah, that's it. I need to go and change all of the door code in all of the door blueprints, because obviously some of the doors look different. Like you can see there's differences between these three models. And some of the doors require keys, which requires them to have their own blueprints. Now I know there's probably a much easier way of doing things than that. But again, I'm kind of learning as I go, so this is how that works. The other edge case door was the back door, which has the cat flap in it. This one. Yeah. And obviously the code was a little bit different here because I wanted, in order to make sure that it didn't glitch out, I wanted the game to wait for the cat flap to stop moving before allowing the player to interact with the door again. And I could show you that code, but honestly there's no point. It's almost identical. The only difference is there's two animation nodes for door open and door close respectively, one for the animation of the door and one for the animation of the cat flap. And I did speak about how the cat flap works in a very old video from a few years back. So I'm going to go and change all of the code in all of the door blueprints and then get onto other stuff. One of my children also recommended adding a zoom function, which I thought was a great idea. Just hold down the right mouse button to zoom in, and I haven't implemented that, but that's also on my to-do list. And we should probably talk about the elephant in the room, or in this case, the bear. There's a giant teddy bear. We are, by the way, I didn't even say, on my test level. That's, let me see if I can find it out. It's high above the map and off to the side. You can see the house in the distance. I just keep this here so that I have like a nice flat plane to work on stuff. But yeah, let's talk about the bear in the room. I had the bright idea that certain objects could kind of move around or turn to face the player or whatever, but I didn't want it to be obvious. I wanted it to happen kind of off screen, but I was stuck with, I don't necessarily always want to take control away from the player to force them to watch something. I'd like stuff to be more dynamic than that. So I came up with this. So what's going to happen is, I'm just waiting for the player to blink. Okay. When the player blinks again, something is going to happen. Spooky, right? I mean, probably not out here and not with such a giant teddy bear in the sun with all of these, birds chirping and everything, but you can see how this code could be used for just about anything. Like not every time the player blinks, like as soon as I trigger the event on the next blink, the normal blink functionality is still there and everything is working. One thing I didn't mention when we were talking about door code was initial states. So let's go back to the front door. You'll see here is a custom function called set initial door state. This runs at begin play. If we go and look in the map blueprint, there's this massive chunk of code here that basically accesses this struct, which stores the state of every door in the game. So at begin play, I can go, it's all in game instance. So I can go here and I can set which doors are open and which doors are closed. And then this code checks to see whether the door is open. And if it is, it sets it as such. And so that's what that does. That's how we keep track of whether doors are open or not, in a way that's independent to whether you go to another level or not. And yeah, that's about it, I guess. I will continue working on various things and make another video when I have something cool to show, or when I want to do another deep dive into a particular piece of code. So as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.